So I hope actually everybody can see the presentation. I think that is the case. First of all, thank you very much for this nice introduction and the fact that you pronounce the name correctly. It's actually, in fact, the hardest part of the day. I don't know why now it is working without it is asked. My name is Kamran Hushank, as it was said. I'm IP trainer and patent expert at the IPI. Translation of that would be actually, okay, the name I cannot translate it, that is the name. And you have to live with that. IP trainer is somebody who's going around talking about these wonderful words, IP, and that's good because we are going to talk about that. And patent expert is somebody who's examining and searching patents at the IPI, that is the Federal Institute of Intellectual Property. But okay, I mean, patent searcher and patent examiner doesn't sound so sexy, so patent expert, please. So what we are going to talk about today is actually, let's first start with why are we talking about something? Because it is always a good idea to ask yourself, why are we talking about that? Maybe don't really need it to talk about that. So why IP and why to talk about it? Why it's necessary to talk about it? Then I will, if you are somehow at the end of that part, you're somehow actually convinced that we have to talk about that, I will introduce to you the main IP rights. Those are patents, trademarks, industrial design, copyrights, so that you know what is actually the difference between them. And then let me say now, which will come later, even if I'm working for the IP office, I have to say I don't really care if you ask for an IP right, because that is not the important question. The important question is actually, and that is something you cannot avoid, is to have an IP strategy. So the whole idea of talking about IP rights is in order to give you the possibility to find out if you need an IP. If you need the IP, what would be the right IP for you and how to do it? And then if you have time, I'm going to give you some examples of what can we do as institute for intellectual property for you. So some of you might know actually that stone. If no, I will tell to you what it is. That is actually the stone of Hammurabi. I'm showing that to you. It is because actually maybe it is the oldest legal text of the humanity we found. That does not mean that it was not any others, but the one we found, actually the oldest one, is that is the stone of Hammurabi, where you see Hammurabi on the top on the right, dictating his laws. And there are, if I'm not wrong, about 280 articles of the law there. More than 2/3 of it is talking about property. So the first legal text ever found, 200 articles are talking about property. That means actually how this topic actually somehow fascinated us from the beginning. So we were always attracted by the question of property. Even a child, when it starts speaking, the first thing maybe he or she learns is actually my mom, my dad, my. So it is actually my property somehow. The point is actually the property as such, even if it really matters for us, you don't have to go to a course to know how to deal with that. I mean, some of you might even have bought a house, or you are going to buy a house, I hope. And that is, I don't know, in Switzerland, it's 1 million and more. You pay 1 million and more for something to have your property, and you have never seen a course about it. Do you need a course to know how to buy a house? Or do you need a course how to buy actually very quickly? So if I want to sell you a good, let's say I want to sell you eggs. What I do is, in fact, I come to you, I have 6 eggs. That is the price. You want it or not? So now it's the decision at your place. Okay, how much does it cost? For francs. If you are coming from another country, would say it's not possible. That's what my grandfather earns in one day. If you're in Switzerland for some time, then that's normal price. I can buy it. So you buy actually the eggs for, I don't know, 4 francs. And what happens now is actually a real transaction, good against money. You will give me the money, I will give you the good. Okay, so now you have the good, I have the money. At each point in that time, let's say, space continuum, either you have the good or you have the money, and me vice versa. So once you get home, the worst thing that can happen is that you don't like the eggs anymore. That's not that fresh as he said. I don't want them. So what can happen? Oh, you come back and say, I don't need these eggs. They are not that fresh as you said. So what? I actually color them. I know that those are my eggs. I give you the money back, and you give me actually. I give you. You give me back actually the eggs. So the point is actually, if we are among adult, reasonable person that are not bad willing, we can do it ourselves. We don't need anybody to do that for us. Okay. However, if I ask you something else, or I ask you, I have a wonderful idea. You know the problem. You have just one egg in your refrigerator. You take it out, you put it on the table, you turn around, paf, the egg, no egg. It is broken. No, I have a wonderful idea to make the egg stand without rolling away. That would save all of your, let's say, eggs in all of your life. So how many eggs that would be? Okay. Who would pay for that wonderful idea? I don't know, 100 francs or 50 francs or even 10 francs. The rule of thumb, you won't pay anything. Why not? Because simply, maybe I'm lying. So in the best case, you would say, show me how you do it, and then I might pay for you. Yeah. Now I showed you actually my wonderful idea, and the question is actually, why shall you pay? Because actually now you know how it works, and you don't need to pay. And you have actually very good argument. By exposing my idea to you, I don't lose my idea. I steal my idea. So what should I have paid for that? I have my idea, and you know it. The worst thing is actually you can tell it to everybody else, and I still earn any money. Another point is actually, if you have paid for that idea because you wanted to know that, no, at the end, after actually I expose the idea, I say, oh, but the idea is actually stupid. I don't like it. I don't want to have some eggs on my cloth before I'm going out. So no, I don't like that idea. Can I erase the idea from your head and give you actually the money back? Doesn't work. So you see, those type of transaction cannot work if it was not for something coming from outside. Call it whatever you want. I would say actually a state. So you need a state to regulate that type of transaction. Otherwise, that does not work. So that is why IP, intellectual property, comes into the game. And if we think about this intellectual property, we have to say it is something which might be needed. I'm not going to say it is needed or not, but it might be needed, that because the idea of the whole thing was, if we don't have an initiative, we don't have some motivation for the people having good ideas and innovation, they might not share it with anybody else anymore. So we lose that good idea because people say, oh, why shall I do something? I will not even pay for that. So let's do something. And that is, this something to do is something that shall be done on the level of the country. Okay, so there is no international view on how, let's say, IP shall function, but there are some, let's say, consents between or among different countries. So one idea might be, okay, so give some protection to the innovators. Okay, And the easy way of thinking of things is that, okay, the more protection you get, the more motivation you have to innovate. So it is actually something linear as you see it here. It is actually linear. The more protection, the more innovation. Truth is that it is not like that, because for a simple reason, if you start by giving more and more, let's say, protection, at a certain point, people who want to make some improvement won't do it anymore, because say, oh, why should I do a improvement? Because I still owe some money for the beginning. For example, somebody who invented the wheel, and the second one want to make actually an improvement to that wheel. But the question is actually, even for to use that improvement of wheel, he still has to pay something because of the protection, or ask the permission of the first one. So the point goes somehow like that. There would be a maximum of, let's say, incentive, and from that point on is going down. How long that shall be, good idea. It's something very empirical. You have to find it out. So the solution humanity found to that's what I'm going to show to you, is in fact a solution that exists there for more than, let's say, 200 years. And you can even maybe find it wordly in different provisions. And that is this one. It says, in fact, let's give an exclusive right to the owner of that innovation. What is an exclusive right? To prohibit third parties using it commercially. And what is commercial use? And that is actually a list, as you see here, which is thought to be at least these ones are commercial use without being exhaustive. You can even imagine other type of, let's say, other types of commercial uses. So to produce is a commercial use. You can prohibit that. To make use of, to make publicity for, to put in sale, to put in circulation, to import, to export, or even under circumstances to transit, that all can be prohibited if it is a commercial use. Where, and that is the very important point, in the country or the countries where the right is granted. First principle we learn here is that an IP right is not an international right. It is always a national right. So at the end, at the moment, at latest, at the moment of, let's say, enforcement of your right, you need at least a help from the judge, from the police of the country. So you have to go to them. So in any case, at latest at that point at the enforcement, it becomes something national. But in other words, if you have a patent in Switzerland, that does not bother anybody to produce it legally in Germany and to sell it legally to France. So if you don't want it, you have to have either a patent in Germany or in France or in both countries. Okay, so that is actually how it goes. You need, in fact, to protect yourself in all those countries where it is important for you. It is a question of strategy that comes later. And the point is, in fact, you have always two types of interest. On the one side, the interest of the owner of the right. And in order to give an answer to that one, you give the economic benefit for him for a certain amount of time, so he can actually use the fruit of his invention. Let's say it so poetically as the German once said. On the other side, you have the general public who has also an interest. You know, I paid for the study of this guy or for this woman. And he had the idea because of the education he received. That is actually thanks also to the public. So what is the benefit of the public? Where can I have this balance of interest? First of all, this innovation is published so that everybody knows how it works. In most of the cases, as we are going to see, that is for a certain amount of time. That means actually it becomes one day part of the state of the art. And of course, general public also benefits from the innovation. So that is the balance of interest that was thought to be found by, in fact, introducing the intellectual property. Now, the good question is actually, intellectual property, really, do I need it? I'm almost sure that actually I'm one of the oldest here in this session. So I would say actually I'm maybe the only one that can go back and work with his hands one day. You all will work only with what you are doing in with your actual intellect. So I'm sure that whatever you are doing, that will have to do something with your intellectual capabilities, intellectual possibilities. So, and I have to say that even in our daily life, even if we take a coffee, even if we take a simple coffee, knowingly or unknowingly, we are confronted to a number of, let's say, intellectual property whatsoever. For example, for that machine, I hope that if you got your coffee today, that machine functioned. So how it functions can be protected. And that is actually a matter of protection by IP rights. Then this machine has a name that distinguishes the products or services of a certain company from those of another company. The name, for example, here starts with N and ends with espresso. Also, that name can be protected. Then the machine has a form. I'm not talking about the, let's say, technical possibilities that are there. I'm just talking about the form, the static auto shape. Even that can be protected. And maybe the machine has, I don't know, some, let's say, software in it, because the new machines have a lot of software. And, or, for example, the machine did not work, so you had to take a look at the manual. The manual, even the software which is inside the machine can be protected through these 4 rights: patents, trademarks, design, and copyright. Okay, so rapidly go through them to say what is each of them. So what is a patent? A patent is a technical solution to a technical question. So whenever you think of patents, you are thinking of technical characters. In other words, if the solution is not technical, that is not the protection you might need. Sorry, that is not the protection you might need. Patents are there to protect technical solutions. In other, again, non-technical, non-patentable. Even if it is about a technical solution, you have to fulfill, of course, other, let's say, criteria. I'm not going through all of them, but one of them is quite important. That is the novelty. A patent is only accepted if it is new. And when we are talking about novelty at the level of patent, it is worldwide and absolute. Worldwide and absolute. It means, in fact, it says something which is part of state of the art is not new. No, what is state of the art? State of the art is everything which was rendered accessible to public one day before the application, wherever in the world, however the manner. That is new, and everything else is not new. Your own publications is killing the novelty of your patents, at least in a lot of countries of the world. So that is the message I want to give to you. If you want to talk about your invention before application, think of the confidentiality. Because when we are talking about the rendered accessible to public, for us, public is a potential person, not even a real person, a potential person who was knowing about the information without being bound with the, let's say, bound of confidentiality. So NDA at the beginning, non-disclosure agreements, and then you talk about it, okay? If it's possible, you don't talk about it at all, but it is not always possible because you might need some collaboration and so on and so forth. So think of it. Any publication of whatsoever, it is not written that it shall be a written publication. An oral publication is a publication. Use is in a publication. To put in sell is in a publication. Every sort of publication. And you can kill the novelty of your own invention. So don't talk about it. That is the very first thing. Then, of course, you need some formality to be done. Shall do some an examination, which is done normally by the office. And even if it is granted, it does not mean that it can go till the end of the day. You have a maximum of 20 years and not 1 year more. In order to get that 20 year, you have to pay annual fees. So we pay annual fee and then go to the 3rd year, an annual fee to 4th year, annual fee 5th year, till the 20th year. And now you can call yourself, I don't know, Nespresso, and you're willing to pay 1 million to have 1 more year, nothing to be done. 20 years, not 1 day more. And that is actually the maximum life of a patent, which is in most of the cases quite good. In some cases might not be sufficient, but that is actually, they had to find a date, and that is the one. So the second one I'm talking about is actually about, it is about trademarks. A trademark, when it is called, it is the one actually that almost everybody needs, who is in a sort of B2C situation. Even B2B nowadays, there are a lot of companies who are asking for a trademark. A trademark is comparable to your name. How to distinguish yourself from the your body just near to you in your classroom. That is more or less actually the same thing what a trademark has to do. When I'm talking about trademark, most of you having another idea of that, what a trademark is, as what I am telling. If I told you, for example, I came today here to the work with a 300 Mercedes Coupe, you will have another idea of my person as if I would tell you the truth. I came here with, I don't know, a Volkswagen Touran just in front of the door. Then just by giving you the name of these two trademarks, you have two different, let's say, idea about the person. That is what we call branding. Normally, around the trademark, the companies are making a whole reputation, and it makes it what it is. That is, but you need at least these trademark at the beginning to make that reputation. So what is the trademark, as I want to tell you? For me, trademark, or actually legally seen, a trademark is a sign to distinguish goods and services of one company from those of another company. That is all what it is about a trademark, a sign to distinguish. Okay. Now, it has also a very important, let's say, aspect for our consumers, a trademark. If I told you, go and buy my, I don't know, favorite drink from the market. So I think actually it is, I'm not sure if can someone tell me actually which one is which scene are you seeing? Because I'm not sure. I have some problem with my.
Let's see. We saw your calendar at the end. Just
Yeah, that is the problem. I have some problem with my computer today. I'm sorry. It is the day actually you are at the row, but sorry. And I have say that is okay. So I'm going to go that outside. What is that? Oh, sorry. let's go. I hope that is.
Now we're seeing
okay,
the
so that is
industrial
I hope that is the right
exactly.
one you're seeing. Okay,
we're
so
seeing the one that says industrial designs.
okay, so I have to go back because that is the point. So we are talking about actually the trademark now. Okay,
yes.
So and that is so you have in fact to go and buy my favorite drink. So if the favorite drink or all the drinks are in fact are seen in this form, how can you know which one is my favorite drink? Because of they have different things in it, different prices. You don't know. So a trademark gives us also the possibility, sorry, to for us as let's say as person to find out actually what is important for us. Okay, so or which one do we want? So it diminishes the time of transaction when you need something. A trademark, as I told you, is assigned to distinguish. So if you are describing what it is not distinguishing. That is why a trademark shall not be descriptive. That is one of the conditions, and that is the only one condition I'm going to mention here because that is actually quite important for you. Make sure that if you use a trademark, you use one which is not descriptive. Okay, so that is one very important point. A trademark is applied for and then it is registered for 10 years. And that is the only of these four rights I'm showing to you that can be renewed ad infinitum. So we can actually renew it every 10 years for the same reason. However, a trademark is never general. It is only valid for the goods and services you applied for. And make sure that you don't do it for everything else because you can lose it. Any trademark that was not, you have actually an obligation to use by the trademarks, and any trademark that was not used commercially as a trademark for 5 consecutive years, you can lose it. So it is of no use having actually a trademark for everything because you cannot sell everything under that trademark. You are not producing or, I don't know, giving a service in everything. So that is why it is only registered for goods and services for which actually you need it. And that is another thing which I have to mention, that even if a trademark is accepted, maybe when you deposit it, you have to make sure that you don't have problems with third parties, because there are also some, we call them relative ground of exclusion, which means that maybe a third party has an older trademark, trademarks are similar, and they are for similar goods and services. So in that case, you are not allowed to use that trademark because of the danger of confusion. Okay, that's also to somehow to protect the consumer. If you go and buy, I don't know, some let's say a bottle of some drink here in Switzerland, and it is called I don't know, Mivella. So why do you think who would do that? Mivella. Sounds that actually Rivella have done it. And if it's not Rivella who did it, that would be a problem. So also that is a question that you have to think about it, not to be too close to existing trademarks for the same goods and services. Now, the next one is actually the one which I think it is not it could have been used in Switzerland much more, I have to say, because that is a very easy to achieve right, especially for the case if you are dealing with products. Then, I'm, of course, not services, but products, because design is protecting the aesthetic outer shape of a product, or even of part of a product. It is very easy and quite cheap to have, and then you have at least an exclusive right in the hand. Clearly, it is about just the aesthetic outer shape, nothing technical. The technicality I told you shall go to the patents, but at least for the let's say aesthetical form, then you can ask for a design. Design need also to fulfill certain conditions, among others novelty. However, the novelty in design is not exactly seen the same way as in patent, at least not in Switzerland or not in European Union. We say something is new if it is new within the country or within the region. Okay, so a design which is very well known in Indonesia, it can still be new for Switzerland without any problem. And, second criteria that has to be done is actually, we call it character. It says, in fact, that small changes is not enough. You have to distinguish yourself. The new design shall distinguish itself from the existing designs as the whole general aspect. So in general, does it make another impression? If it does awaken some new or some other general impression, then there is a character. Design shall be applied for, of course, in Switzerland, and then you will be given 5 years. You will have 4 times to renew. So you can, after 5 years, you renew it again 4 times, each time for 5 years. So you have a maximum of 25 years for design. As I told you, the good thing about it is actually the formalities are quite easy. And other aspect is that you have the possibility to have some right in the hand and to enforce it quite rapidly. Okay. Last but not least is about actually copyright. Copyright protects the works of art and literature. And it is a very long-lasting, let's say, right. The difference between copyright and the 3 other rights we have seen before is that you can have copyright with the, let's say, creation of the work. So you don't need any application for that. You have it with the creation of the work. And it lasts 70 years after the death of the author, not 70 years in total, after the death of the author, which is quite a long time. If you write a song today, you're in the early 20s, I hope you are living till 90, and still 70 years after, so 140 years of protection. It ends one day, but very long time. So also here you have to fulfill conditions. One is quite easy, it shall be done by a human being, the answer to any question that might come up later. What about actually the, let's say, art or artistic works of AI, not protected through that law? That law is about to protect the creation of human beings, and then it shall have an individual character. And that is actually the quite hard question. What is individual character? The good answer to that is actually, fortunately, I'm not a judge. A judge has to decide about it. But he will decide to say, oh, is the work has some individuality, or everybody else would have done it the same. So that is actually what shall be answered by let's say a judge. Again, good news about that was that you don't need any registration for that. You have it by the creation. Bad news is you don't know if you have it because nobody actually did the examination. So if there was no examination, how can you know if it is actually has an individual character or not? So you don't know if you have it. But the third parties don't know if you will have it or not. So people are talking about the rights. That is how it works. Okay. So you don't just copy it. You talk about that. Okay, how would that cost? And the other one have to think, okay, maybe it is not protected. That costs that much. And then you come into something. Most of you would say, actually, yeah, that's not really our problem because we are not artists. Why is he talking about that? It is because simple reason that, actually, also software as such is protected through copyright. So software as such, I mean, actually, the code is protected by copyright. So for those of you, and nowadays actually most of the ideas are dealing with some software, at least for that case, is also a protection. It is a protection in the special case of software 50 years after the death of the programmer. It is a very, very long time. And the bad news about that type of protection is that the protection does not protect the algorithm. It does not protect, let's say, the content. It does not protect what it does, not the effect, but also only the form, how it was written. You cannot translate a software from, I don't know, Fortran to C++ and say that is actually another one. The translation would be something like the translation in literature. It is prohibited. However, you might write another algorithm who is doing exactly the same thing, and you're out of the, let's say, protection of that software through copyright. But again, at least that one exists. So is it everything you can do? The answer is no. There are other possibilities. The good old secrecy. You can keep it secret. However, you have to know secrecy can work, cannot work. There are a lot of parts which can work quite good. If it is about a method, is it about extremely complex products, or is it about a niche product, service product, or something else? All that maybe is good with secrecy. However, even secrecy has its own risk because you have to hire people, but you have to make sure that they stay with you because if the people are going, they may be taking secrecy with themselves. You have to distribute the knowledge among several people so that not one guy or one woman goes with the whole knowledge. Nowadays, because of the mobility, it is quite difficult. The other thing is actually if the thing is disclosed, even if it is disclosed, let's say, in an honorable manner, it is disclosed. You cannot undo the knowledge. So that is another problem. Another possibility is actually to say, I don't need a patent. I can live with that decision if it is a decision done by all your strategy. If it is a strategical decision, then I can live with that. However, even if you do that, think of one thing. Think of defensive publication. Publish it. I told you, novelty worldwide and absolute. So kill the novelty for everybody else. So at least you are sure that nobody else can patent it against you. So even actually a defensive publication might be a good way to protect yourself. There are also other laws in many countries. The one I'm going to mention here is about the fairness law. And if you look at the fairness law, the article number 5, at least, and the letter C, it says somebody who takes over the marketable works results of others without adequate on expense and only through technical reproduction processes is acting unfairly. So the question is actually, do I need a patent? No, I don't need, because he says actually if somebody's copying me, he's acting unfairly. So I'm going to attack everybody on unfairness. Yes and no. What is the problem with this article is that actually who has the burden of proof? The burden of proof is on your side. You have to say, to show that you were the first one, that the other one did it without on expense and just by copying. And it is hard enough to show that you were the first one, but don't talk about the rest one. But at least that exists also. So you can also think of it. And don't forget, if you are even actually in a process, don't forget to mention also the unfair competition law, because that is something that might be quite important. Last part, the very last 2 minutes, I want to talk about the fact that an IP right is a cost factor. And this cost is only justifiable if you have a return on investment. So think of, why do I need a patent? Or why do I need an IP right? And in order to do that, think about, first of all, what shall be protected? Shall I protect the whole thing or part of it or all the parts? Is it about technique? Is it about name? Is it about form? What sort of IP rights would be suitable? Or maybe I need several IP rights. So maybe actually, as in the cases, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe I need actually several IP rights. So that is actually what is also interesting to know. The other thing is actually think about your market. So, for example, is it do I need an IP right, or shall I maybe keep it secret? Shall I publish it defensively? And the other thing is actually where to publish or where to apply for. Is it good only in one country? Maybe I need it in several countries. Maybe I need it in a region. Maybe I need it worldwide. And that is always a question of cost. How much does it cost? Can I afford it? Okay, everybody wants actually a patent everywhere in the world, but can you afford it? Can you pay that? And even if you afford it and you pay that, why shall you apply for an IP right in a country where you are not, let's say, really look at it? I mean, Burkina Faso is a very nice country, but why having a patent in Burkina Faso if you even not control if somebody's infringing your right, yes or not? So, in fact, all those questions are the strategic question. I would actually go to the end because I forgot to say it, but you will receive, Emma told it of, in case actually, you will receive all that, let's say, support, so you can read it. There are actually also some hints, what can we do for you? And if you are still interested in that, let's say, topic, everything you always wanted to know about IP but were afraid to ask, go to our site www.ipi.ch, and then in fact you will search for these brochures, which are actually envisioned, created, protected. You can download them, and there are a lot of information in it, and more than what I could tell to you today. So I want to thank you with a, let's say, registered trademark, and thank also SSA for inviting us. And so that was it from my side. If there are questions, I'm at your disposal. If you want to share your idea, your things, we are there for you.
Thank you so much, Cameron. Let's jump into the Q&A section. So I invite everyone, if you have any questions, you can either write it in the chat and I can read it out loud, or you can also put on your microphone and ask it directly if you have something very specific. But I have a question to start off with while people are writing in the chat. So Cameron, is there any specific industry or sector where you've seen that intellectual property protection is particularly crucial, like for startups, etc.?
So I have to say, in fact, actually, the question should be actually, is there any industry where IP is not important anymore? And the answer would be no. Okay. The point is actually which industry or which IP right is more important in which industry. As a matter of fact, I'm from patent division, as you have seen. So I would like to say a patent is the most important one. It's not true. It depends really on the industry where you are. If you are, for example, in the industry of mode and textile, the very important part is maybe actually design or trademark. You can decide which one. Then you have actually on the ranking, you might have actually, I don't know, copyright, and patent comes the latest. If you are in the industry of, I don't know, pharmaceuticals or biotechnology, without a patent, don't bother do anything. Okay, so it depends always on a lot of factors, internal factors, external factors. There are even actually industries that they are, I don't know, they are doing these IP rights traditionally. And if you are in that sector, sorry for you, you have to do it exactly the same way as the other one do, because it is like that. So the answer is yes, almost each, let's say, sector is touched by IP rights. Depending in which industry you are, it might be the one or the other one important. And again, it is a question of your own strategy. Try to find the best strategy. And if the best strategy is not to protect anything, but to be the very first one on the market, time to market, go with it. If you can be successful with that, be successful with that.
Thank you very much. I see that Maximilian, you put on your camera. Do you have a question potentially?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Hello, sir.
Hello.
May I ask you, how long does it take and what are the average costs? I'm coming from a software startup and we have some technology that we believe might be patentable, but I would very much like to follow up with you on that, if that might be possible.
Okay, so the point is, in fact,
do you have
even
some,
actually,
yeah,
yes, yeah, go ahead.
Guidelines for me. Thank you, sir.
Okay, no, go ahead. Did you finish, or I interrupted you? Go
Yes.
go ahead and
No.
yeah, okay.
No,
So
it's
even,
really
even
about
actually,
time
yes,
and
yes.
resources.
Yeah, of course. The point is actually, even software industry might have some patentable solutions, because what I did not say, and I can tell you now, is that a software might have a technical effect.
Yes.
By technical effect is actually, I'm going beyond the normal technical effect that every software has. I don't know, sending some photons to the first, let's say, to your monitor and so on. But real actually effect. So that can be, and these, if it is new and inventive, it can be also patented. So patentability might be given actually also in software. However, the point is that how much does it cost? It depends on how many countries. Let's give you some numbers, okay?
Yes.
So if you want just a patent in Switzerland, 10 first years would cost you about 10,000 francs, from which about 7,000 francs the cost you have with a patent attorney who has to write it for you. And then you have 3,000 francs fixed cost, which is, includes, let's say, the annual fees, application, examination, and so on. I mean, application of a patent costs you 200 francs in Switzerland. It's not that much. Examination, 500 francs. With the application, you pay the 3 first years. Fourth year would cost you 100 francs. But in 10 years, cumulatively, you come about 3,000 francs, more or less, plus 7, 10,000 francs. Okay. The same patent over the European Patent Office in 6 most named, let's say, areas and countries in the European Patent Office, as it is actually Germany, France, Great Britain, Switzerland, Benelux, and Italy. If for the 10 first years, that would cost you about 50,000 euro. Which is almost 50,000 francs again. Half of it are the costs you have with your patent attorney, and for the translation, the other half is about actually fixed cost. If you add just United States to that over a PCT application, you'll go rapidly to 150,000 francs. Okay, so it is actually, it might get more and more expensive. The more countries you want, the more actually people you want. However, you have to take into consideration, by having what I told you, this European market plus, I don't know, US market, you have a market of 600 million. And that is actually, if you have in 10 years, I don't know, a return on investment each time $2 of usage, and you have 150,000 times usage over $2, you have doubled actually what you put in. So yes, it depends. It can be very expensive. And all that I told you is even actually let's say, it's not dependent of what, let's say, what it might come because of litigation. The other question was actually, how much does it take? A patent application from the point as you asked for, in the rule of the thing, if you don't do anything else and then you respond correctly to the question and so on, till the moment it is granted, last about three years, I would say. In the middle, it's about 3 years. Okay, so it does not mean that you are not protected during that 3 years. It says actually that is the procedure, and after that 3 year, the thing which is accepted after that 3 year was valid from the date of application. So all the time long you are protected. However, what is protected, we know it afterwards, after the whole these 3 years. Let's say actually a lot of people in a role of actually patent owner are trying to have more time, not because the people in the IP offices are so lazy, but in fact, if that is even a tactical question. People are thinking, okay, so I have actually a very, let's say, weak patent. So as soon as it is granted, everyone knows how to find a way around it. But as long as it is not examined through the end, you don't know what comes up with. So they make it longer by not responding correctly, by responding just partly, and then having things, and so they make the 5-6 years, so that the third parties are obliged to maybe accept a license, because they cannot wait still 5 years before they do it. Okay, so that is also even a way people are trying to prolong it, their applications.
I see your point. Thank you very much. Sorry, there was a short network error. The number that you gave me were 3 years that it takes?
About 3 years. I said actually in Switzerland, you pay 200 francs for the application.
Yes,
and
no, I
these
got
200
the cost
francs covers the very first 3 years. And the fourth year in Switzerland costs you 100 francs. And the fifth year costs 120 francs. It is not that much. Huh?
The minimum time that it would take to get to
the minimum time to take to a patent application is granted. I would say actually the minimum, it's not a minimum, because most of the possibilities are you can even actually have an acceleration. In fact, for example, Switzerland, when you ask for a patent, you can ask for an acceleration. And if everything is written correctly, then you have it in 2 months, okay? But in the rule of the thing, if you don't do anything, if you let the things go, I would say 3 years in the middle.
Thank you, sir.
Not at all. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Let's see if anyone has a question where they would like to turn on their camera or write in the chat as well. We have a couple minutes more. Otherwise, I have some whole stack of questions myself. Let's see. I mean, we now talked a little bit about expanding internationally when it comes to the IP topic. And I mean, this is a goal for majority of startups to expand internationally. Could you give like some quick suggestions or tips for how startups should do when they want to expand internationally and deal with the IP topic?
So the point is actually, in fact, of course, international expansion is always very important. However, what you can do is always, you have to start somewhere and so on. So the good thing and the good news of the day is that the IP rights would give you a possibility of some reflection time. Be it in a patent or for trademark or design, it is a time called priority. So for patents, the priority time is 12 months. For design and trademark, it's 6 months, which means that actually when you start with your application somewhere in the world, for example, in Switzerland, you will be given some dates, 12 months for patents, to apply for the same invention in other countries without losing that date. And that is important because, in fact, the date, it decides about novelty and everything else, and also about who has the priority to the other people. So the good news is actually, if you have something you are not sure about, you can start with the very first application, do it in a country where you know the language, where it's actually cheaper, and so on and so forth. And that gives you at least some time before deciding in which countries. Once, in fact, you got that 12 months, that is a date, day by day. 12 months and 1 day, no more the relation of priority. So you can have that, but it is very, very fixed. So if you want to extend that in in some rights, for example, for the patents, you have the possibility of a sort of international application, which is not an international patent, to get some more time of reflection. It is called PCT. And then actually you ask for the PCT. You will lose some countries because the countries who accepted the principle of priority, there are 188. PCT countries are only 157, but almost all big countries are there. Just to say some that are not there, for example, I don't know, Pakistan is not there, or Argentina is not there, but the rest of the big countries are there. And then at least through that PCT, you will be given some more time before you decide in which countries you want to keep your patent.
Okay, thank you very much. We're slowly entering 1 o'clock here, but I'm thinking just as to end it all off, you mentioned the topic of AI, which is affecting a little bit maybe the IP topic. Is there any like developments or trends that you can mention for all of us here that we should look into in order to stay on top of the IP topic?
No, in fact, the point is actually AI, of course, or anything else, and that is actually what makes IP also interesting. Is that you know, the technology plays a very special role in the IP. The IP has to run somehow behind that because technology is so rapid. So people are thinking, as I told you, for example, are thinking actually, if there is no copyright, what can be found to give at least a sort of let's say exclusivity for the AI created works, and so on and so forth. On the other side, there are AI implemented inventions. What about them? If it is about an AI implemented invention, the question goes back exactly to the same thing as I told you as I told actually the person who asked the question, in fact, Maximilian, who asked about actually the possibility of a software implemented invention. AI implemented invention is actually dealt with exactly the same way. So if you use AI, and at the end of the day, what you're solving is a technical problem using AI, you have still maybe a patentable solution. Okay, we still can actually talk about if that the invention comes from AI, what happens. Again, we have the same answer for the time being, because it's not a human being, and the IP was thought to honor the human being. There is no actually, let's say, IP right on that. However, using an AI, and that is what most of the startups are doing, using, I don't like maybe the term AI, talk about actually deep learning. You know, they're using deep learning methods and so on to solve a problem. So take a look at the problem. Is the problem technical? Is the answer somehow technical? Is there some technical, let's say, necessity of reflection to achieve that solution? And that might be a patentable solution. So you can even have a patent for those types of invention.
Thank you. That definitely answers my question. And there we are at the end of today's webinar. Thank you so much, Cameron, and thank you everyone for joining and asking your questions, being a part of this webinar. As mentioned, we will send out a thank you email, which includes all of this information and also a few links, etc. So make sure to connect with Cameron if you have any further questions as well. And see you at the next SSA event, hopefully.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the whole event. And I hope to see you actually in person, maybe in 2 weeks, as we are, or no, that's actually in more or less actually 1 month, as we meet in Zurich.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.